Hello everybody, and in this video, this is an introduction to induction. So, what is induction? Well, let's just get started, and I hope that you'll be able to understand by the end of this how induction works, and you'll get a brief introduction into induction. So anyways, without further ado, let's get started. So, the problem here is that we have a number, 9 to the n minus 1, where n is an integer. And what we want to prove is that for all 9 to the n minus 1, all these numbers that have this property are divisible by 8. So that's pretty cool. And you can prove this in many different ways, because this is a particularly easy one. But let's solve it with induction. So, how does induction work? Well, what we're going to do is right here. This might be kind of confusing, but don't worry, because you'll understand it immediately after we start actually doing the problem. So, the first step is called the base case. So this is where we prove that basically in this problem, n equals 1 works. And then second, what we're going to do is we're going to prove that for all n equals k that work, n equals k plus 1 also works. So based on that n equals k works, therefore n equals k plus 1 must also work. So now let's just get started. So first let's look at our base case, which is n equals 1, because n must be a positive integer. So let's start with our lowest case, of course. So 9 to the first minus 1 is obviously equal to 8, and since that is divisible by 8, we're done with that. Now, we see that if we do test n equals 2, n equals 3, they all work. N equals 4 also works. But we can't go on to infinity, so we can't really do that. So first, we're going to assume that 9 to the k minus 1 equals is divisible by 8. So if 9 to the k minus 1 is divisible by 8, then if we multiply this by 9, it should also be divisible by 8, right? So multiplying that by 9, it becomes 9 to the k plus 1 minus 9, right? And we see that if we add 8, and remember, this is still divisible by 8, because since this is divisible by 8, and this is divisible by 8, and therefore this whole thing is divisible by 8. So when we add 8, this becomes 9 to the k plus 1 minus 1, and therefore this is also divisible by 8. And we see that this is the 9 if n equals k plus 1 case. So therefore, if we assume that n equals k case works, then therefore the n equals k plus 1 case must work. And since we know that n equals 1 works for sure, then therefore, by induction, since n equals k works, therefore n equals 2 must also work. And from there, since that's n equals k, n equals 2 plus 1, which is n equals 3, must also work. And n equals 4 must also work by the same logic, n equals 5, and so on. So we can continue that for forever. And by doing this essentially proves that it works. So hopefully after you watch this video, you got some brief knowledge of how induction works. And I will be making more videos on induction soon, so be sure to check that out. Thanks for watching.